Okay, so let's talk about the Tiered Registry Bill. The fact is, it started out with a different number and a different author. So Senator Ricardo Lara, we all thought was the best person ever to be the author of our Tiered Registry Bill. And let me tell you why. In a state like California, he's Hispanic. Okay, that helps. He's Hispanic. He happens to be gay. And he was a self-identified survivor. It's self-identified as a survivor of sexual abuse. And I'm like, wow, we can dream this one up, right? And, oh, he's the chairman of the Appropriations Committee in the Senate, right? We thought, home run, this is going to be so easy. Until he decided he didn't want to be the author of the bill anymore. We still don't know why. He said publicly it was because he was going to run for a state office. Well, so what? Right? He's going to run for the insurance commissioner. Do you think they care about the insurance commissioner? I don't know. Well, one day, when he writes his memoirs, perhaps he'll let us know why he backed out. But we were very, very fortunate in that another senator who picked up the bill. Now, this senator has an unfortunate last name. Yes. So far, that's why we usually refer to him as Senator Scott Wiener. So Scott, emphasis, Wiener, not so emphasized. But he's our hero because he is the author of our bill. Okay, so what else? We have a sponsor. The DA of Los Angeles, Jackie Lacey, is the sponsor of the bill. The sponsor of the bill is not a member of the state legislature, but really important, okay? The biggest DA, the most powerful DA in the state of California is Jackie Lacey because she represents Los Angeles County. She wants this bill. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, then let's talk about some of the co-sponsors of the bill. We've got Equality California. In California, these folks are really powerful in our state capitol. They happen to represent LGBTQ issues. And they think that this is a swell bill, and they want it to be passed. Wow, this is amazing. Okay, and I don't know if I mentioned or not, but Senator Wiener is also gay. He's also very connected to Equality California. We also have our Sex Offender Management Board. That doesn't happen in many states. We most of the time agree with our Sex Offender Management Board. I can't say it's 100%, but they have issued study after study talking about the need for a tiered registry. And they even put out a video. Oh my God, they put out a video late last year about how our registry in California is broken. And they actually put some victims and organizations that represent victims basically stating their support for this bill, or this concept, because it wasn't a bill yet. This is fantastic. DAs, oh my God, we are rarely agreeable with the DAs about anything. And police chiefs and all these other people, public defenders, ACLU, okay, yeah, we're used to being in step with them, but we're not used to having these people on the same team. And Chance will tell you why that might be a dangerous thing.
and also, I might say, you're listening to this and you might think, this is generated to help those on the registry. It is not generated to help those on the registry. This is about resource allocation. This is about a tipping point in our state's economy and with respect to the ability for law enforcement to monitor folks. And so there's just too many registrants, and we've been talking about this for years. When is the tipping point? How many does it take before the mythology is broken and now we get an alternate explanation, and now it's all about watching those who really need to be watched versus watching the whole bunch. And that's where we're at. We're at resource allocation, and that's why the backers of this, strangely enough, are law enforcement.
Yes. They are now, in this bill, they are now the tip of the spear, for those who know DOD jargon. They're the tip of the spear, not us. In fact, we have been asked not to lobby in support of this bill. Now, we haven't agreed not to lobby. We've done lobbying earlier in the year. Oh, we've been lobbying on behalf of this for about 6 years, right? And taking point papers, this is the concept, blah, 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 blah. But the fact is, some of these people who support the bill think that if we go to our state capitol, if we talk to state legislators, that they're going to be afraid. And that's baloney. Okay, it's just baloney. I have actually I've been told to my face by staff in legislative offices in Sacramento that, oh my God, the last time you guys came here, then the staffers you were talking to got scared. And I'm like, okay, what staffers? Well, what scared them? We never get a precise answer because I don't think there is one. All right? And I want to tell you, I have been going to the state capitol for 6 years. And whenever we go, we never send a registrant in alone. We do not. Okay? When we go in teams of people. We have a registrant, we have a family member, if at all possible, and we have somebody like me who doesn't fit in those two categories. Right? We're not going to send a registrant in alone. Not because we think registrants are scary. We want to protect the registrant. Okay? We want to make sure that nobody's making some allegation against them. In the state capitol, we've had this situation when we were lobbying, I think it was in March. There were little Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts everywhere. Right? And I'm like, and there's elevators. There's a bank of elevators, and there's only so many elevators. And if there were Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts, I told my team we're not getting in that elevator. Okay? It's to protect the registrants. The last thing I want to happen is somebody claims that I got groped in an elevator in the state capitol by a registrant. Okay? It ain't going to happen because we're not going to be in the elevator. We have to walk up 6 floors, we'll walk up 6 floors. Because we have to protect ourselves. But back to this nonsense about we don't want you lobbying, we're going to lobby, and it does make a difference. And I want to tell you, especially when we have committee hearings, okay, we have committee hearings, and we stand up at a microphone, and this is all you're supposed to say. My name is Janice Bellucci. I'm from Sacramento, and I'm asking you to support this bill. That's all you say. They don't know if you're a registrant or you're not a registrant, right? That's it. Now, there are some other hearings maybe where there's some more substantive give and take, but most of the time not. Maybe Chance or I will be up at the front and talk about the bill, but maybe not. On 421, we have not been at the head table. The DAs have been there. Law enforcement have been there. We've watched what they've said. This is a very fragile alliance, let me tell you. And we're waiting and looking over our shoulders like, okay, when are they going to drop a bomb here? When are they going to make this practically impossible for anybody to qualify? But right now, according to the California Department of Justice, 90%, actually 92% of the people on the registry today are going to be eligible to petition for removal from the registry. 92%. We have over 100,000 people on our registry. That means 92,000 people will have a chance to get off the registry. And we'll talk about the details later. But anyway, this is about the legislative process.
Let me just say something about the elephant in the room, which is, when we start to talk about this, it's going to become apparent to you that this model is crime-based rather than risk-based. And that's because, most likely, when it was drafted, the model for the drafting was probably the SORNA model, most likely. How do I guess this? Because this particular draft was generated out of the Sex Management Board. And so my guess is that law enforcement didn't create it by itself. It used the SORNA model and kind of modified it and put it out there. But when we start to discuss it, you're going to see that lines are drawn in a way that makes it a crime-based model. Now, this is the state of the law today. If we stay involved, it won't be the state of the law tomorrow. This is just the beginnings. And we can't tell you today what it will be in September. But that's what it appears to be today, and we're sketching it out for you, and we're taking a snapshot of what we have today, not necessarily what it will be in its final draft.
Yes. Okay, so let's talk about what's happened to the bill so far. The fact is that it has been passed by the Senate. Okay. First, it went to 2 committees. It went to Public Safety, and then went into Appropriations. And the Public Safety Committee approved it on April 25th, and it got out of the suspense file on May 25th. Now, do you remember I said Ricardo Lara was the chairman of the Appropriations Bill, right? Or committee, rather, and he was the author of the bill. He was one of the only 2 people who didn't vote on the bill. So, again, we don't know what that's all about, but he didn't vote for or against the bill. Yeah, if he had it. So, but the fact is, he did keep it alive by releasing it from the suspense file. So whether or not he could vote on it, oh well, the fact is he released it from the suspense file. The chair of the Appropriations Committee alone, personal decision, can keep something in the suspense file. Okay? This is important to know because of the next step. So when it went to the Senate floor, we needed 21 votes, right? Well, we got a lot more than 21 votes. So I'm not sure that's right, those numbers. I believe the number was 27. The final number was that 27 people voted in support of the bill. And it was really interesting because that we had bipartisan support. So we had Democrats who voted in favor of it. We also had Republicans who voted in favor of it. In fact, we have a new co-author of the bill who's a Republican. And this helps a lot in Sacramento. And by the way, of course, having law enforcement and the DAs in favor of the bill helps as well. For those people that are called law and order Democrats, that's kind of their nickname. I call them fake Republicans or fake Democrats. But anyway, they usually are in districts where it's difficult, where there's close between Democrats and Republicans, and so they vote with law and order. But when it came to opposition, I think it's also important that we had Democrats who voted against it. And I remember one of them spoke on the floor of the Senate why he didn't like it. He thought that more people who are currently on Tier 2 should go up to Tier 3, which of course is what we're fighting against. If anything, we want people in Tier 3 to go down to Tier 2. Okay, so let's talk about what's next. And I just want to highlight, emphasize as much as I can about the Senate, that this is the very first time that the California, any legislative body in the state of California has ever passed a tiered registry bill. So that is a momentous occasion in and of itself. And then I want to tell you, that was the easy house. Now we got the hard work to do, because this is why. It has to go to the Assembly, okay? There are 40 members of the Senate, and there are 80 members of the Assembly, okay? I used to work in Washington, D.C. as a staffer, and I hope you don't hold that against me, but it's like in D.C., the Senate is like going to Nordstrom's. Everything's peaceful and quiet, somebody's playing tasteful piano music, right? Going to the House of Representatives or the Assembly is like going to Walmart, okay? Or Kmart, and they have their blue light specials, right? It's like you better get out of the way because there's going to be elbows and people are going to be jostling you. And that's what happens in our state assembly as well. So we have 80 of the little darlings that we have to herd in a certain direction, okay? Oh, we're not supposed to do that through lobbying. Well, we are. We're sending letters, making phone calls, but we're not going to go there in person because we might be in those scary elevators. But we have to go through 2 committees in the assembly and then to the assembly floor, and we can lose it at any point in time. So let me tell you the one most important person and ask, is there anybody here from San Diego County? Anybody here live in San Diego County? Okay, great. And some more over there? Great. I hope that Lorena Gonzalez-Fletcher, it represents you, just so you can lobby her, because she is our biggest obstacle. Lorena Gonzalez-Fletcher is a member of the Public Safety Committee. She's just a member there, but guess what? She is the chair of the Appropriations Committee. Remember how powerful I said the chairs of the Appropriations Committees are? This woman alone can stop our bill. And let me tell you that Lorena Gonzalez-Fletcher has never been our friend. She's always voted against us. And in January of this year, she married Nathan Fletcher. So if those people have ever heard of Chelsea's Law, Nathan Fletcher in San Diego started Chelsea's Law. It's because of him. And now she's married to Mr. Fletcher. Okay, Lorena Gonzalez-Fletcher as of January 1. So I can't imagine what they discuss around the dinner table, but I hope it's not how they're going to kill the tiered registry bill. So we have some assets who are working mightily to try to at least neutralize Lorena, but we'll see. We'll see. And that's why when we ask for support by people showing up and speaking in front of that microphone, sending letters, making phone calls, it really does make a difference. So I'll tell you a little story, not in this session, but in another session, where we were opposing a bill, and we had 15 people standing at that microphone saying, my name is Janice, I'm from Sacramento, and I'm asking you to oppose this bill on that case. We had 15 people. We have a lot more people in this room right now, right? 15 people showed up that day, and the comments that were being made in the room were like, oh my God, we've never had so many people oppose a bill before. This is incredible. 15 people. Folks, we have over 100,000 people on the registry in California. Where were the rest of them? I don't know. I guess they were out to lunch. But the fact is, 15 people that day made a difference. We stopped a bill with 15 people standing at the microphone. And one of the comments that we got later was this. The author said, "Oh, I didn't know people would be opposed to my bill." What? Because he really didn't. He was a brand new Republican. I swear his senior Republicans probably gave him this piece of paper and go, "Hey, take this bill forward. You'll look like a real hero when it gets passed." They didn't bother to tell him that somebody might object to that bill. And so actually what happened is the committee that day passed the bill. You know, I remember that day very vividly because it was pretty depressing. And by the time I got home, he had withdrawn. I had a 5.5-hour drive. He had withdrawn support for the bill by the time I got home. And I'm like, what? And that's how we found out, because a few people called his office, maybe pretending to be constituents, about what he did. And he said, "I had no idea people would be opposed to this bill." We have to be heard. We have to take the time. No, it's not convenient to drive the state capitol. Parking can be really difficult, okay? The food is expensive. I know all these things. It's still worth going, unless you want to be in a lifetime registry.
Well, and think about this. There is over 100,000 registrants in this state, but 15 people showed up and stopped a bill that would affect all of them. All of them. That means every single person in this room and at this conference is important to this cause and can do something positive for it. If 15 people can stop a bill, can you imagine what we can do in numbers?
And we had, when the Tiered Registry Bill was up for consideration in the Senate Public Safety Committee, we had 47 people show up. 47. We more than tripled our number, right? I keep thinking about 100,000. Okay, there's still some people missing. Can you imagine if we had this line that's snaking all the way down through the Capitol? I think that would just be fantastic. Numbers make a difference. These people actually pay attention, right? And for the longest time, they've been listening to victims and victims' rights organizations and that weren't thinking about the big picture. Now, a lot of the victims' rights groups understand the significance of the registry and how it is permeating the entire process, right? People who have said, and one specific case I know about, she's a survivor, her father was a perpetrator. She said she thought he should go to prison for 4 years, 4. He was sentenced to 30 years, okay? She now has become one of our advocates, because she's like, this is wrong. This system is broken, right? We have other people, Megan Kinka's mother, that has said, this system is broken. I never meant for this to happen. People are using my child's name incorrectly because you're creating more problems than you're solving. Look, folks, there's truth being spoken, but it's a question of being heard. You know, when is the media going to pick that up, what these folks say?
Yeah, the other thing that I would also emphasize visiting with your local assembly person. You know, I've been doing that. They have more time to talk to you. The staff people that talk to you get that you're within their community.
The numbers, I mean, right now, these DAs and the police chiefs are using the fiscal impact, as Chance just said. They're talking about how much money could be saved, right? Folks, we've been saying that for 5 years in the state capitol, and fell on deaf ears. They didn't care. They did not care. We did some economics, is my minor undergraduate. You know, I put together this economic model. This is how much money is going to be saved. This is the answer we got in response. We don't care. We don't care. And oh, by the way, most of that money is going to be saved by local government, not the state government. So we really don't care. They really didn't care. And I was like, what? Yes, sir.
Those 15 people, were they all registrants, and do they need to be?
They were not all registrants, and no, they don't need to be. Hey, you've got neighbors, you got family members, I don't know, somebody uses them Rotary with you, whatever it is. Bring them along. Say, hey, I'd like you to stand at a microphone for just a minute. And you don't even have to use your real name. Yes, Mark.
I'd like to add something. I didn't make the first round of the 15. I was on 15, but I made it to the second round. And what happened is I went to a meeting that Janice was holding. I was appalled at how few people showed up. And And so I said, I've got to do more. I didn't blame it on anybody else. I said, well, what am I doing? So I found my voice, and I found my courage to climb up from under a rock and say, you need to make that trip to Sacramento. So if you follow the website and you get an invitation to, or request to participate, by all means do it. You will never, ever regret it.
Thank you, an endorsement. Okay, so let's go back to the process.
May I ask something?
Yes.
In addition to walking up to the microphone and saying that, is there any chance, is there any possibility in the assembly in California of people sitting down at a table and testifying? Does that happen as well?
It will, but the people who will be testifying will be from law enforcement.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they do have testimony in addition to
Yes,
that.
but let me explain this, folks. Remember I said that I used to work for Congress? I work for a committee. Hearings are usually theater, okay? All the decisions have already been made, all the deals have been worked out. When you go to a hearing, it's usually, doesn't make a difference on the outcome, usually.
But there are times
Yes.
when it does happen. I remember testifying in a hearing with Connie Leva, and it was about a school bill that she was trying to initiate, and the chair of that committee understood what I was saying. Just one person, the rest of the committee didn't, and the rest of the committee was gonna help her out. But that chair understood it, and that bill ended up in the trash. So you know, don't think that our words don't count. They do count, and we are heard.
Yeah, so, yeah, I didn't mean to say it doesn't have an impact because it does. And I remember, and his name is Bill Bro, and he's from Orange County, and he wanted to basically reverse all the court decisions that we won about presence restrictions. Again, I swear his seniors didn't tell him what had already happened. He just thought, oh, okay, I'll just pass this bill and everybody will love me. And he had no idea about the court decisions and everything else. And I remember another hearing that we went to, and this was one where people actually took some time, the committee, and they actually wanted to hear from people, not just the few people up at the very front. And remember, it was a Senate, and the woman from Berkeley, Ira, she was there, and some people actually identified themselves as registrants at the microphone. And you know what she did? She took time out and she commended the registrants for speaking that day. And she says, I understand it took a tremendous amount of courage for you to get up in front today. And she thanked people for being there. So it doesn't always happen. Sometimes, like Mark described, it's an inner understanding that you have and this sense of power that, yes, you can make a difference. 47 people did make a difference. And what Chance was just talking about, sometimes we are giving ammunition to the people who already agree with us, right? And so if they hear Chance say a catchy phrase, then they'll repeat it, right? And it's like, yes, now they're saying it. It's not just us saying it. It's a wonderful experience. Yes, sir.
I had a client in Washington State who testified at a hearing. There was a bill to require the schools to notify all parents of any registrants who were in the schools in the wake of the incident with the convicted offender. And a 16-year-old client went down and testified before the legislature and described the impact it would have on him and his family, what it's like for him to live on the public registry, and single-handedly killed that bill. After the hearing was over, the proponent of the bill, the sponsor, came over, thanked him for his testimony, told him he was going to withdraw the bill, and the TVW, who televised these kinds of things, had a little glitch. And so Joey didn't show up on TV, which was also a memory for us. But there was a lot of sympathy, a lot of understanding, and he very articulately talked about his story and the impact on him, and all by himself built that bill.
That's fantastic.
And
One
that's-
person can make a difference.
That's what happened with Connie Leva, except the chair was a former school administrator who understood the concept of bullying and what happened when bills like this come about.
A gentleman here, you've been waiting.
Of those 100,000 registrants that would be interested in going to a hearing,
Yes?
but they have travel restrictions, what would be your recommendation?
Stay home. We don't want, as much as we would like to have you there, we don't want anybody to violate parole or probation conditions. And folks, these hearings are televised, so if your parole officer sees you in Sacramento and you're not supposed to leave LA County, please don't.
Don't do it at least without permission.
You absolutely.
Yeah, just to confirm, I'm from Texas, and two bills. One was to put a symbol on driver's license. Another one's a presence bill, never got out of committee because Mary Sue from Texas Voices, we packed one side of the committee room with literally 200 people. And the other side, in one case, was 2 people who were from the state to support the bill. And we had 6 or 7 qualified people to speak against it. And they just never came out of committee. And in one video, 200 people after the committee met on the subject, the video on TV is hilarious online. Everyone gets up, and Mary Sue orchestrated. After that was over, 200 people get up and leave. And the look on the state senators' faces, that there were so many people against it, spoke volumes.
It does make a difference. Numbers do matter. So let's talk about the Senate bill specifically. The deadline for getting this bill through the committees is September 15th. I'm sorry, and I am on the Assembly floor. It's September 15th, and then the governor will have an additional 30 days to either approve it or veto it. We have an understanding, very informal, that he does support the bill, and so if we can get it through the Assembly, I think it's going to be a home run. I wonder if he and his staff made that assertion based upon the thought we couldn't get it out of the Assembly. So we'll see. We'll see soon. But anyway, we should know by the middle of October if we have a law. So let's talk about what it says right now. Whoops. As I said earlier, and remember, subject to change, but right now it's got the 3 tiers. That yellow piece of paper here lists offenses by tier. And Chance is absolutely correct. It's an offense-based registry. Okay? We don't want an offense-based registry, but that thing about this registry is better than no registry. I'm sorry, no, that would be nice actually. This registry is better than what we have today. So we're not here to talk about anybody's offense. There's going to be some change in categories and stuff. And by the way, it's mostly offense-based. However, if you're high risk, it bumps you up a tier. And so there's even a provision in there that references that if you end up on tier 3 solely because of your risk base, then you can do something after 20 years. I'll talk about that in a minute. But again, tier 1, 10 years, tier 2, 20 years, tier 3, a lifetime. Okay, and trust me, as an organization, we have spent so much time and energy thinking about this and whether or not we would support the bill, right? Because not everybody's going to get off. There are going to be, according to the Department of Justice, approximately 8,000 people who will end up in tier 3. But this is how I came to make peace personally. This is just Janice's opinion. This is the Titanic. The California registry is Titanic, and it's going down. Okay? There are lifeboats. We have lifeboats for 92% of the people on board the Titanic. Are we going to tell those 92% of the people not to get in a lifeboat to safety? No. Okay? 8%, we're coming back for you. Okay? We're going to go get some more lifeboats. But this is how, again, for me to have peace of mind. I think you had a question?
Yeah, sure do. God willing, this goes through, and with all our advocacy. But can you tell me what is the process in the future, assuming this goes through, to amend laws like this? How public is that, or is that done in committees all quiet? And in other words, is it going to be an equal battle every time we want to have it amended and have a few more people switch over to tier 2 or whatever? How does that work?
Sure. That's exactly what we'll do. So it's coming back with new lifeboats, is that after this bill gets passed in whatever form it passes, we're going to go back every session to try to change the tiers. And trust me, we want to take people off of tier 3 and put them in tier 2, not the other way. Okay, that's what we're going to be working on, but it's going to be a battle every time. We have a very fragile coalition together right now with law enforcement and the DAs. I don't know if we'll have the same kind of support in the future. We can't even guess. But right now, we want to get this done. Again, we're changing something that's been in place for 70 years. And you try to think of anything else that's been around for 70 years and to change it, you don't get everything you want at the very beginning.
And also, keep in mind, this is not a true tiered system. Okay, lifetime will still be required in California. Okay, a couple of segments of the registry will be subject to 10 and 20-year tiers, but there's still going to be a third category of life. And our object, ultimately, is to create a true tiered system in this state based on risk assessment. If we get there, then we reach our goal. And that leaves it open to every individual on the registry, every individual, a way to be removed from it. So that's where we're headed.
Yes. Yes, ma'am?
Just to go back to that previous question, doesn't this have implications for sentencing? You know, like, I mean, we're talking about the tier now post, but also what are the implications for sentencing?
Well, if you're talking about the tiers, the tier assignments made by California Department of Justice, it would happen after sentencing.
Sorry?
It would happen after sentencing, the tier assignment
Oh,
by
okay.
the Department of Justice, not by a judge. And I think, yes, sir?
I really liked your analogy with the Titanic, but I think it's extremely important that everybody remember, once the 92,000 reach the safety of the Carpathia, we've got to go back for the other 8,000.
Absolutely.
That is our commitment.
So when some of us get off the registry, and that will happen, then we can't forget that we still have to go and stand up and speak up and support the other change.
And
That is
guess
correct.
what? People, yeah. I'm gonna leave it there. Okay, so let's keep going. We'll never get through the PowerPoint. So let's talk about how do you actually get off the registry, right? It's not automatic for most people. There's a small category that will be automatic if you were convicted prior to 1987. And those convicted in 1987 was like, oh shit. I'm sorry, they had to draw a line somewhere. I think they drew the line because it's 30 years. I'm guessing if it gets passed in 2017, it's been 30 years. And by the way, you cannot have reoffended, okay? And if it was a tier 3 offense, you don't automatically get off, you'll have to petition. Okay, so let's talk about most of the people. Okay, so it excludes high risk, it excludes repeat offenders, and you have to have been in the community for 10 years. So that means if you were in prison for even something that's not a sex offense, you haven't been in the community for 10 years, you also are not going to automatically get off just because you were convicted prior to 1987. Do I agree with this? No, that's the way it is. Okay, that's politically feasible. Oh, goodness, I turned it off. Okay, so let's talk about the current bill content. Yes, okay, so we did that. So what about the petitions? What's that going to look like? Chance and I think it's going to look kind of like the certificate of rehabilitation process. Now in California, there is this process called certificate of rehabilitation, and there's a whole panel about that tomorrow. So, most shameless advertising for tomorrow. But the fact is that not many people are eligible to apply for a certificate of rehabilitation in California. And what our state legislature has done over the years is they keep excluding offenses, okay? So you can't actually apply. Plus, you have to have lived in the state of California for the last 5 years. I have multiple clients who are living in other states. And even though they would otherwise be eligible to petition for a certificate of rehabilitation, they can't because they live somewhere else because they said, I'm not putting up with this foolishness. So anyway, the petition process, they will be able to petition. So it goes to, you have to send a notice to the county where you reside. Also, you have to send a notice to the county where you were convicted because they may not be the same. Also, a notices get sent to the DA's office. Did I say this? So the DA, okay, to the DA and to local law enforcement. So according to the bill, local law enforcement is going to determine whether or not you are eligible. So they're going to look, did this person, has he really been in the community for 10 years or not? They'll have your rap sheet, folks. Don't fudge it, because they'll stop it. The DA's office, though, it's not going to be factually based necessarily. So the DAs are really going to be a very pivotal point here. And anybody who lives in Orange County, my advice is move. Okay? The DA in Orange County has not let certificates of rehabilitation get through, with one exception, Mr. Chance Oberstein, and I don't think he's going to allow petitions to get through either. So what the DA will do is object to your petition. This is theoretical, the way it's set up in the bill right now. If the DA objects, okay, what happens? Then there's a hearing. There you go. Okay, first, what are the standards for objection? Okay, Enhancement of community security. That one scares the stuffing right out of me. So I'm sure Tony Rackakis and his office in Orange County is sharpening their pencils and they're getting ready to declare everybody needs to stay on the registry in order to enhance community security.
And let me shrink wrap this a little bit for you. In terms of a certificate of rehabilitation, which is a very limited remedy for post-conviction relief in this state, even if you get one and it takes you off the registry, you can still lose it because the DA, where the certificate was issued, can petition the court if they think that you pose a danger or a safety threat to minors. Now think of this as the same type thing. They're not doing anything new. You make it to eligibility, and now you petition the court, and there's a decision to be made. Do they oppose or do they not? It's the same thing like in certificates of rehabilitation. If they feel that you are a threat, not just to minors, okay? It's been expanded a little bit. If you look at their factors, it's to the safety of the community, and it says right here, maybe based upon enhancement of community security. If they feel that way, they're going to make the pitch, okay? And then it's going to get into a hearing, and Janice will describe that for you.
Sure. Do you have a question back there?
Yeah, just quickly, do you have a right to counsel during the hearing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we think it'll be evidence-based. Yes?
Just to jump on the process, that 10 years in the community, does it have to be 10 years continuous, or can it be 10 years interrupted?
It doesn't say right now. So there's going to be a little subjectivity to district attorneys. Yes, sir.
When is the period told? Is it at conviction? Is it at release?
It's at release of custody, or if you don't do custody, say you were given probation without custody, at the end of supervision, which is at the end of your probation. It should be, I think.
Yes, that's what we expect. There's a question back there?
Yeah, just to kind of reword a question that she had. So if you're living out of the state or out of the country, is that not counting towards the 10 years? Do we know that yet?
It just says in the community right now. If they want to interpret it that way, then I'll be suing them.
And let's put just to answer your question. We're talking about the current state of the bill, so we really don't know what the final bill is going to say. But in terms of being in the community continuously, if you look at certificates of rehabilitation as a model, before you file for one, you have to be in the community continuously for 5 years. So.
But that's what the law says.
That's what the law says.
This law doesn't say that.
We don't know.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am?
I just wanted to ask, I'm a therapist. I treat a lot of level 1, what do we call it, tier 1 child porn, 311.11.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, and using an eviction model. But what I wanted to know was, all of them get 5 years probation. Does this mean that they have to be on the registry for an extra 10 years? Because they get 5 years here.
We think so. So when they would complete probation, that clock would start ticking, and they'd have to do 10 years after that. That's my understanding.
Well,
but it's just an interpretation.
Okay, so we're talking about child porn. As of 2014, anybody who was given probation and goes to, you don't do parole, right? You do probation.
Yeah, although most of it's probation.
Okay, let's talk about probation. Anybody who, after 2014, gets those charges is ineligible for relief in this state. Okay, with the exception, there are exceptions. However, with this particular bill, okay, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, they fall into the 10-year category. So they can petition for relief after 10 years. It used to be, before 2014, either 7 or 10 years. Okay? Now, I believe that this will put them in the 10-year category.
Yes, but I think the question is when you start counting, and I think, folks, you ever notice that lawyers don't always agree with each other? Okay, so we have a third lawyer over here who also wants to be heard, or his wife.
But I'm so quiet.
Go ahead.
I haven't said a word.
This one.
We're the ones waving our hands.
Okay, please.
Oh, on the thing about being free in the community, I think it says in here quite explicitly is that they count starting the time period from the time you're free in the community. And you're free in the community if you're on parole.
Probation.
Well, that-
No, because what they're doing
That's-
is giving you a time period in which you have the opportunity to offend, in which you don't offend.
So
you're
I
proving
hope
that
you're
not
right.
That may be
I hope
right.
you're right. We don't know, folks, we don't know, and really, lawyers can spend a lot of time interpreting anything. Yes, sir, and everything.
I know of a case where somebody was convicted of a sex crime, and then upon time for their release, they were released. They absconded on parole because they were threatened. They were rearrested, tried for probation, the parole violation. Then, at the end of the parole period, they were classified as a mentally disordered offender, sent to the state mental hospital, where they were held for an additional 10 years before they were released. The basis for the NDO conviction was a parole
Sir,
violation.
I'm gonna stop you. We're not gonna answer that question. Is there another one? Yes, sir.
Yeah, quick question. You said that the notice is also going to go to the county of conviction?
Yes.
What if that's out of state? How will that work? Because are they going to participate? Is that state going to participate?
We do not know the answer to that question, but maybe Eliza here can bring it to the people who are debating or amending the bill. Did you have a question, sir, before Eliza? No? Over here?
Yeah, will this apply to people whose conviction are out of state?
Yes.
Oh, will?
Yeah, and there's actually a provision, this is why I know it, because there's a provision in here. An out-of-state sex offenders required to register in California whose offense is not equivalent to a California registrable offense will automatically be put in Tier 2, according to the current bill. That's on your piece of paper right here. Folks, this is all subject to change, but this is the way it is currently written.
So what that means is that they can't figure it out, you go to Tier 2.
But so many things can be figured out, right? And by the way, it also applies to federal offenses. Okay, it doesn't make your offense go away, but you won't have to register in California as long as you live in California and you've petitioned successfully for removal. Yes, sir.
That's a little bit off base, and I know it's subject to change, but...
And if it involves an individual situation, we're not going to answer it.
No, it does
Okay,
not.
good.
It does not. I do a lot of work. I do a lot of work with SPPs and things of that nature. From my understanding and from the statistics I've seen, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be bumped to this Tier 3 simply because of a high static 99 score.
Yeah.
Is there going to be any remedies other than a habeas?
Okay, you're a good straight man. We're going to get to this next chart here. I keep turning this thing on. Stop.
Jeff, can I ask you about what risk is on the static, high risk is in the static here, what the number is?
Right now, it's considered 4.
4?
Really?
6.
No, folks. Okay, wait a minute. Somebody asked me a question. I'm going to give my answer. The Department of Corrections considers a score of 4 or higher to be high risk. I don't agree with that. 4 is moderate/high risk, and CDCR declares it to be high risk. There was another question back here. Yes, sir.
I wonder how Adam Walsh plays into this. If you're going to go to an offense-based system, but that brings you into compliance with certain provisions of SORNA, there's money available through that, and legislators are persuaded by that argument. So we sort of backdoored some of our reforms through that somewhat disingenuous argument. But I know California told the government to pound sand like most other states when it came to the tiered-based or the risk, the offense-based system, and yet now you're adopting that system. So.
Okay, we're not adopting Adam Walsh Act. This is not SORNA. California has consistently said it does not comply with SORNA. There's nothing in this bill that makes me think we're going to be SORNA compliant. Now, the interesting thing about the federal government is sometimes it claims states are SORNA compliant, even when the state doesn't think it is. So, in the past, one of the primary reasons we've said no to SORNA, we as a state, not Chance and I, is that it requires juveniles to be on your Megan's Law website, okay? And we have, that's been one policy decision in the state of California that I agree with, and that's not going to change in this bill.
What's SORNA?
Sorry? SORNA, sex offender, blah, blah, blah. It's also known as the Adam Walsh Act.
Sex Offender Registration Notification Act.
Thank you, sir.
The registration and
notification.
Okay, great, let's talk about the current bill. And this, okay, so if the DA objects, okay, who makes the final decision though? Thank God the DAs don't make the final decision, okay? They can object, but you have a judge that makes the final decision. That's the good news. The bad news is these judges are subject to re-election, right? And many of them will not risk themselves and their chance of re-election just to help out somebody who's on the registry. Now, fortunately, we do have some state judges who have a backbone, but not everywhere, and don't count on it in Orange County. I keep harping on Orange County because I'm serious. Orange County is just very unfriendly to registrants and their family members. So here we go. What is the judge supposed to look at? One of the things that makes me totally crazy are these pre-conviction factors. The bill used to say the judge had to consider these. And a request that we made, and that actually is reflected in the bill, is now it just says the judge might look at these factors. I wanted them to be removed entirely, didn't get that, but they said, okay, we'll change the word shall to may. And in the law, that makes a big difference. So a judge may look at these pre-conviction factors, which by the way, were looked at when the person was sentenced, when the person was convicted. Why in the heck are we looking at them again? But that's what it says. So I'm not even going to read them. I'm not going to give them that much credibility. Then we have the other ones about the post-conviction factors, which makes sense to me. Okay, how long is this person, how many years has it been since the offense? If it's been, like Frank Lindsay, more than 30 years, why are we wasting our time, our precious law enforcement resources, that's the buzzword, the precious law enforcement resources on somebody like Frank Lindsay who was convicted in 1979. They're still making compliance checks at Frank Lindsay's house, sometimes for a year. This man hasn't moved for 20 years. He still is the same thing. Why do you think compliance checks happen? It's called federal grants, state grants. And think about it, if you were one of these law enforcement officials and somebody's paying you overtime to get dressed up like you're a real cop, they can put the SWAT uniforms on sometimes to get out the guns, right? Because these people are so scary, they have no weapons, right? If you're on the registry, you can't own a gun, so they're gonna come and play bad cop and show up and insist that you show them information. And by the way, in California, I consistently tell people, if you are not on parole, if you are not on probation, and the cops come for compliance checks, you don't have to talk to them unless they have a search warrant, okay? Close the doors, close the drapes, turn on your music, whatever you want to do, you do not have to pay attention to them. I mean, there was a terrible example of somebody after the fact telling me, well, the cops showed up, they knocked on my door, so I let them in, right? And then they said, you mind if we look around? And he said, oh, no problem, I have nothing to hide. Okay, so they looked around. Then the next thing they go, we'd like to look on your computer. He said, okay, I have nothing to hide. Now, it ends happily that he really didn't have anything to hide, and they didn't plant anything on his computer, but they spent 45 minutes on his computer. And, I just wanted to grab the man by the shoulders and say, don't be so freaking stupid. If they don't have a search warrant, there's no way they can go on your computer. Okay? That's privacy right there. They can't go through your house unless you say, sure, you want to toss my house? Go right ahead. Let me tell you a stupid example, but it is real. That a man who was on parole, but see, he had to let them search his house. They found a teddy bear. The teddy bear was in a cardboard box. The cardboard box was in like a back closet. It was a Christmas decoration, dressed like Santa Claus. He went to jail because his wife had that Christmas decoration because they said that was a toy. And he wasn't supposed to have any toys in his possession. He didn't even know it was there, folks. Didn't make any difference. He went back to jail. But anyway, back to the bill.
Back to the bill. And according to the bill, when the judge makes the final decision, they take into consideration post-conviction factors. Now, some of those are included in the petition that the DA is going to make, but the ones that are most salient, most important, are right here. Time period without offense. That's your good conduct between the time of the offense and now, or when you petition. 2, completion of a treatment program, how you did according to your doc, your sex therapy worker, whoever is assessing you on that level, that's how you did, and the judge is going to look at that. Hard to change that static 99, but if you're outstanding on the time period without an offense, which means your good conduct, and you did well in your treatment program, you're on your way. Yes, Ira.
Yeah, the developer of the static 99R, Carl Hansen, says it's not valid in this context because it's only a valid measure of risk if it's given shortly after release or at the time of release. The reason it ceases being a valid measure of risk as time goes on is because the static 99 does not take into account the absence of any new offenses. And so, as you say, it does not change when any sensible assessment of risk would adjust the risk level downward to reflect time at liberty without reoffending. So Hansen is currently developing, actually has a model that has an unpublished article on, that takes that into account. It adjusts the risk level that's measured to reflect the fact that there's been time at liberty without reoffending. And the way that hopefully, the static 99R is not actually what the bill says, it's what you would get today, that's right. But the bill has more general language that would allow the substitution of the new REST tool that Hansen's working on, rather than the static 99 in this circumstance.
And let me just say this, the DOJ seems to think, or at least one of the persons involved in creating this bill seems to think that the static 99 number never changes. What you're saying would be really helpful in terms of what a representative and advocate could say in front of a judge to rebut this assumption that that is a number that will never change. And if we can make that into a rebuttable presumption, then we really go in with a lot of power.
What I'm hoping is that if assuming the bill gets passed in its current form, okay, that's a big assumption. Assuming the bill gets passed in its current form, it'll fix itself automatically because the language of the bill will no longer be the static 99, it will be the then approved Serrazzo board measure, which will be Hansen's new test, which will take into account the years at liberty without having to defend.
That's excellent.
Yeah, and I hope he chooses a better name.
Well, yeah.
Static 99 sort of it doesn't change.
So folks, one of the things that, a fundamental problem with the static 99, even the R or revised, is in fact that it is really weighted against young gay men. If you're a young gay man, you will be high risk in California. Okay? So you're victim of the same sex, you haven't, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's impossible. The DAC is stacked against you. And this is one of those things that it needs to be changed. But again, what we're trying to tell you is what is currently in the bill. Yes, sir?
The static 99 appendix 1 says the coding rules in the original Hansen document says that if you're in the community 5 to 10 years without new offenses, your risk is reduced by half. So even Hansen says that this changes over time with that, and it's right there in the coding rules. So I think the DOJ person needs some education.
Yeah, all we need is the California Department of Justice to acknowledge that. So you have a question, and I actually would like Ken to come up and talk for a minute about Oregon. Yes, sir?
Oh, it's not really a question. It's the differentiation. There's static risk factors and dynamic risk factors in this. We've been talking a lot about static, but there's static, which are immutable things which don't change. They all relate to the offense, and then there's the dynamic factors that are things that change after your conviction.
Yeah, we realize that, but that's not what it refers to in the bill. Folks, I need to get to the last chart, and then I want Ken to come up and talk about Oregon for a minute, because this is a state that recently got a tiered registry, and they've had some
risk-based
positive things and some negative things. Okay, so again, the decision about whether or not you're going to get off the registry will depend upon a judge right here. Okay, the judge's decision, let's just say the judge grants your petition, that information is supposed to be sent to the Department of Justice, right? And then they send you the letter you've been waiting for, which says, you don't have to register anymore. Yahoo! Okay? If it's denied, then what happens? The fact is, we believe that you can reapply, and there's supposed to be a time period in which you can reapply, but it could also be appealed to a higher judge, a higher level. So in Orange County even, I know I bash them a lot, some of their appellate court judges are braver than the other judges. And so, and it helps when you have 3 of them, because they can all blame each other. It wasn't me, it was 2 out of 3, but it wasn't me, right? So they can do that. So Ken, why don't you come on up here and talk about Oregon? You know, I'm going to do my best to stay after to answer a few questions. I don't want to answer anybody's personal question, and I do want to have lunch. So again, remember, we're 15 minutes before lunch right now. There's lunch up on the 5th floor here. I've been told they cannot accommodate everybody, so they would like some people to leave the building. Oh well, make your own decisions. There's potato chips and other unhealthy snacks out in the hallway. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I want to start just by saying that Janice's initial comments here are echoed in broad outline in everything we've learned in Oregon. First of all, a small number of people showing up at the right time can change things. When we get 15 or 20 people in a room, which we've had it a few times, it's made a big difference. So, yes, everything she said matters. The lineup in Oregon is a little different. We have no cooperation from the DAs. We do have a really bad county, Clatsop County. If you're from Clatsop County, move if you can. But the actors are a little different, but the dynamics are the same. In 2013, well, in 2011, we didn't have either residency restrictions, nor did we have any more than, we've got 30,000 people on the registry now. We, at the time, I think it was about 17 or 18,000. 700 of them were considered predatory and up online. It's a very small number.
Yeah. Is there a mic that we can use?
No, it's...
I'll speak up. I've got a little bit of a throat issue, but I'll do what I can. But we have, where was I on? 30,000 people. At this point, we're going to a risk-based registry. Something like the projections here. We assume that about 70% of the people will get low risk based on the static 99. We assume that about 20% will be labeled level 2 based on the static 99, and about 10% will be level 3. That's going to give us about 3,000 people online. That's a big chunk. It's people we regret, but for all the reasons that we're talking about here, we didn't make those decisions. We're working with what we can to get as many people off the registry as fast as we can. The discussion about the static 99 and the lack of dynamic factors is something that's really important to us right now. At this point, Oregon has, for about a year, been trying to get the static 99 done on 30,000 people. This is like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. And it's a huge problem just to get this thing done. Originally, our release doesn't go through the courts. Our system sends it through the parole board. Now, we've got all of the same kinds of political worries about how the parole board would work. But that's the way it's going to work there. During the process, we have to worry about how are we going to manage the appeals, but we haven't even started that. All of the effort right now has been just on how we're going to get the classification stuff done. We hammered on the problem of the fact some of these people have offenses that go back 30 years or more, and the static has no relevance anymore. And we thought we'd lost that battle in the initial stages. But the parole board themselves came back, having looked at the data and decided that they would make an interim change that I think could be done even without the release of Hanson's new material. He's got the general stuff there, but they still don't have the actuarial charts that they want to validate this. But our parole board decided that they would correct the static to the age the person is now, which, as if you know, the static makes a big difference for people. You can gain 1 point for getting over 35, and you can get 2 more age points if it's been a long time. So this can really lower a static substantially. And that's not, they're not having to wait for it, it's being done on the statics as we implement, which is good. We don't know how the hearings are going to go for relief. We have all the same worries that you do, but we have a seat at the table with the parole board's committee, and we're going to have a chance to talk about it. It's also a small group, and we've been working with them for a couple of years, and they listen to us better than they ever have in the past. So we're feeling like we've got, this process gets your group a seat at tables. And when you have a seat at the table, you make compromises, and all the compromises we're talking about, but it gives you leverage to make changes in those smoky rooms. So I really would say support this effort because it's paying off in lots of ways now that we're in on those committees.
In 2019, this is supposed to be implemented, so we'll see how it goes.
Well, that's interesting because our bill too, if it passes, is supposed to be implemented in 2019. Eliza?
I'm just going to give a few updates.
Yeah.
Since you created this, and some are bad and some are good, and some I don't know. I don't know if they're good compromises. But one thing is adds, and you may have mentioned this, but I didn't hear a tier or if you're adjudicated as a youth, if you're registering for that.
I did not.
Okay, yeah, so the latest version of the bill responded to some advocates for youth and it made separate tiers, so that's 5, 10, and 15 years. And we're pushing really hard to get no youth on lifetime, but I don't know if that will work. The other thing that's changed, from a much earlier version, is there's going to be no right to counsel. What surprising me is the biggest costs. I mean, the biggest barrier, maybe besides the Assemblywoman from San Diego, are the costs, because this requires the DOJ to overhaul their software. So they're trying to cut costs everywhere, and the right to counsel is a no-go. So that's one change.
Is that right to government counsel or any counsel?
Well, there's no prohibition necessarily that I can read in. I couldn't imagine. But yeah, no public defender. And one other thing I was going to say that you guys didn't mention that worries me a lot for changing the lives of people is that my reading of the bill, and I'd like you guys to confirm this, in a sneaky way, it's adding people who are now off Lincoln's Law because they got an exemption. So if you have a misdemeanor 647.6 or a felony 243.4, they're giving you 30 days notice and now adding you. So that's going to be people who are off. So I just thought of one thing, which is if you fall in that category, I don't know if this will work, but I was just thinking about it right now, is maybe you want to get a felony reduction of your 243.4 to a misdemeanor, and then they shouldn't add you back on. And then one last thing is that you saw me smile, Janice, about the question about out of state and who do you serve. And Ira, in reading through this bill with someone in mind, we've caught all kinds of omissions, and they're inadvertent. At first, we are sure we're trying to keep people out, but we realized it's just such a complicated bill, and we've been successful in getting them to fix it. And so, for example, right now, as written, the IRA figured out, or Tara, there's no path off the registry for Tier 3 registrants who are only on Tier 3 because they have a high-risk score if they were adjudicated out of state. And so they're going to fix that. So my advice is, find a lawyer or find someone who's familiar with this bill to read through your individual case. Who knows if the bill will look like this and it will be the truth when it passes for you, but it's also a way to catch gaps and errors and omissions and help us push for good amendments. So.
Our experience was exactly the same, so that there were all kinds of omissions, things people hadn't thought about. 2 years later, we had a second bill go through to try to do fixes on a whole lot of those things.
Yeah.
Another thing that I would like to address is this, because we've seen these comments on the website a lot. People saying it's going to cost thousands of dollars to petition for removal from the registry. I don't think so. We're going to work with other nonprofits and like Rebound, and they're going to be making presentations later in the conference, and other organizations so that we can train the trainers, and then they can train you. And I don't know, I'm not making any specific promises whether or not we have a YouTube video or something like that to help you prepare your own petition. Petitions, I don't believe, are going to have to be done by lawyers. Okay, you can do them yourself if you do them right, but if you have a tricky situation, like do I end up in this tier or that tier? So we're going to do our very best as an organization. We are going to apply again for grants. We have applied for grants before, and guess what? We've never been granted a grant. So, hello. You know, even the California Bar Association, they practically laughed me off the telephone when I said what we wanted to apply a grant for. There are people out there who don't understand our issue, certainly who don't support the issue, and you know, we're going to do it to the best of our ability so that everybody will have representation. And what you know, Eliza just said is true. Public defenders probably are not going to be there for you to apply for a petition, or heaven forbid the DA objects to your petition, and then what? So we're going to do our best, but you know, it's like an emergency room, okay? And so I have a sister who's an emergency room nurse, and I am familiar with the term triage. So you come in, you give me a phone call, you give Chance a phone call, and you're telling us all the terrible things that are happening in your lives. Well, our job is to sort through those terrible things and come to the one thing that's the most terrible and causing you the most trouble right now, okay? And then we can deal with the other issues too. So it's the same thing with this petition. I'm sorry, this law. Please don't ask me. Do not ask me what tier you're going to be in. I'm not going to answer that question until the bill becomes law. Because otherwise I'm wasting my breath, you're wasting my time, you're wasting your own time too, by the way. You can do all the pontificating about it that you want to, okay, whatever. I think you would spend your time better changing the oil in your car or gardening. But you can do whatever you want to do, but it's not useful to do this right now. It's so speculative. On the other hand, if you think you have a totally unique situation, then give us a call, send us an email. There's contact information right there on the screens. You can contact us. You have my permission to bug me, okay, and to nag me, because I don't have a secretary. It is me. I pick up the phone, not anybody else. Not this phone number, by the way. This is the organization's phone number. Okay, so, and I'm the one who tries to screen the calls, and there's just one of me. So I have, anyway, there's just one of me. So that's why you can nag me, because I might not answer the first time. But please, please, understand that this is a very important issue. We are so close, I can just taste the tiered registry. And no, it's the, it looks like a pomegranate when I'd rather have a banana. But, the fact is, it is what it is. It is better than the system we have now. And truly, truly understand that for the people who are going to end up in Tier 3, we're going to come back for you in the rowboat, okay? We're going to try to get you off of this terrible sinking ship and get you to normality so that you can, in fact, live in peace. Okay, a couple less questions.
So right now, start writing letters, start making our phone calls, start getting our family and friends to do the same.
Absolutely. Okay, Senate Bill 421 has a hearing date, July 11th. If you can get yourself to Sacramento on July 11th, please do so. Crawl, beg, don't steal. Just get the resources to come to Sacramento and be there on July 11th. I think it's 9 o'clock in the morning. It's going to be the Senate Public Safety Committee hearing. All you're going to do is stand in front of a microphone and say your name, your city, and that you support the bill. That's it. No pontificating. This is not the time to recite the Gettysburg Address. That's all you're going to get to say. But as Mark said in the back there, you will feel so damn good after you do that. I promise you that you will. Okay, and if we get this bill past Public Safety Committee, it's still not over the finish line, but it's much closer, and then the appropriations, there's not an opportunity to testify in front of the Appropriations Committee. It's a dark hole. So we watch it on TV, and we're waiting for our bill to get released from suspense file or not. But that's it. July 11th is the date. Before that, write letters, make phone calls. It really makes a difference. People in these offices and stuff, they're sitting there with a tally sheet. Okay, we got another 421, another 421. By the way, there was a slide quite a while ago when it talked about the people who oppose the bill in California. There's nobody. There is nobody. And it was so beautiful to be there, even in the Senate Public Safety Committee, and Mark Walsh himself is sitting there, right? It was beautiful because guess what? He didn't have the support of law enforcement, the DAs. He just sputtered. He really didn't have much to say. It was a beautiful thing. So thank you all very much. Appreciate your time.